Halftime show, Terry Ford, and Ed Bird. All of us hanging out here. It's like that movie Split. All the different personalities. A good movie. I liked M. Night Shyamalan, like Sixth Sense, Unbreakable. Then, I don't know, the movie's got E. But then Split was kind of cool. But then they made that last one that made no sense. But anyway, and then that one about all the people getting old on the beach was awful. Whatever that mess was called. Anyway, we are here up until 3 on the game. If you are listening in Columbia, thank you very much. Myrtle Beach, Florence, thanks for hanging out with us. So it was a basketball game last night in College Station, Texas that turned out pretty bleeping well, didn't it? Absolutely. It was a bumpy ride, but it turned out well for the good guys. South Carolina gets the W. Second straight road win. 6 road wins on the season for the Gamecocks. There were some people who didn't think they'd win 6 conference games all year, much less 6 road games. So, I mean, again, last night, just, another check mark on the resume of this incredible season that South Carolina's having. And look, I get the 2-game losing streak. Everybody started getting a little concerned because I understand. Okay, here we go. Here we go again. We had this conversation. When something disappoints you or underwhelms you or is as good as you hope it would be or want it to be, when all of a sudden it's exceeding your expectation, there's 2 sides of you. Hey, this is awesome. Okay, when's it going to go into crapper? This is human nature. Hey, Uncle Zeke's been a really nice guy lately. When's he going to be a jerk? And after the 2-game losing streak, that week off, and we talked about it here, best possible timing for a week off. Get to refocus, go back to getting in your mind the things that got you to the point of where you were. Yeah, you want to play another game quick to get that morning breath taste out of your mouth after losing the way you did at home to LSU. But you got a week to get you back on the right path. And we've seen it. Really nice win in Oxford. Gritty win last night in College Station. Against a team that it might not be the most skilled shooting squad in the world in Texas A&M, but they do other things that can make a game what it ended up being last night. Look, Texas A&M, honestly, it feels like they couldn't fall out of a boat and hit water. That is a bad shooting basketball team. We talked about it before the game. You clearly saw what we were talking about watching that game last night. They cannot shoot the rock. But they're consistent. They can't shoot from 2. They can't shoot from 3. But what they did last night, now going into last night's game, and Texas A&M is in the top 30 in the country and getting to the free throw line. We said going into the game, if South Carolina can keep Texas A&M off the offensive glass and keep them off the free throw line, it should be a W. Well, Texas A&M got to the free throw line a ton. But here's the thing. Texas A&M on the season shoots under 70% from the line. Last night, they couldn't miss. We had 22 or 25 from the line last night. They don't shoot like that from the line. Every time they made a free throw, I'm just sitting there laughing, going, really? This is a team that can't shoot 70% from the line the whole season, and right now they're Steph Curry. Seriously? But Texas A&M lives getting, rebounding their own missed shots and shooting from the free throw line. Now, to the credit of South Carolina last night, I think, because I'm doing this off the top of my head right now, because I just walked in the studio and didn't break out my computer to give me my, to make sure I'm right. Because like I always say, top of my head doesn't work like it used to, and I think that's because the hair fell out of it. South Carolina, I believe, lost the rebounding battle by 2, 37-35, but I do think they pulled one more offensive rebound than Texas A&M. A&M typically pulls down 42% of their missed shots. Best offensive rebounding team in America. Last night, they only pulled down 31% of their missed shots. So, hey, nice work, Gamecocks. Because rebounding's effort will want to. Rebounding is not fun at times because, you're sitting there and you're boxing out with another dude and they're leaning their sweaty self on you and you're leaning your sweaty self on them and you're fighting for position and people are dropping bows and doing rebounding's a want to. It's an effort thing. It's a grind type of stat. And South Carolina held their own with a team that one of the main ways they win basketball games is ripping down their own missed shots. And trust me, after watching last night, Texas A&M missed a lot of shots. So South Carolina getting through all of that gauntlet and then blowing a 13-point lead, got themselves together. Now, look, LSU game, couldn't get yourself together. Last night, South Carolina got themselves together and made the plays they had to make after losing the lead, and A&M went up by 3. Composure, calm. South Carolina got it back together. Shot selection got better. Movement on offense got better. Hit some big shots. The 2 threes by Cooper, large. Michi had a 3 in those last 4 or 5 minutes. And how about Zach Davis? Zach Davis, the putback, the tip in, and also Zach Davis cutting to the basket, especially on that final play. And we'll get to that in a minute. And then how about, Colin Murray-Boyles in foul trouble. How about a couple of those big offensive rebounds that Murray-Boyles got? Had a couple of putbacks, but added extra possessions and kept possessions alive with some key offensive rebounds. Again, a team effort. It's just all the way across the board. Guys doing very important things in important moments to help win that game. A lot of times winning games, you'll see the highlight of the buzzer beater or the game-winning shot, or some big play, because that's what they're called, highlights. But a lot of times, little teeny things build up to make the big things possible. And you saw a lot of that in the last 5 minutes with South Carolina in getting that victory. There are rare games where you blow a double-digit lead and then come back and win the game late. So give the Gamecocks a ton of props. And going to that final play, this is what I like about Lamont Paris. There's many things I like about Lamont Paris. The fact that he relaxes by washing his car for an hour is kind of interesting. But Lamont Paris, look, you watch it, South Carolina plays slow. Slow. One of the slowest tempo teams in America. 362 teams in Division I college basketball. South Carolina, going into the game last night, I believe was 355th in tempo. They play slow. But last play, A&M scores, ties the game. Ball's inbounded to Michi. Again, there's no panic. There's no rush. Michi gets the rock, turns up court. A&M is not trying to put any kind of pressure on the inbound or the ball handler. So you got clear path down the court. Lamont is waving them down, baby. We're not taking a timeout. We're not setting a play. We're not going to give them a chance to set their defense. I got a veteran squad. Everybody looks calm. A&M's not putting any heat on us. Bring that thing up court. Let's go make a play. A lot of coaches on teams that play slow and methodical, like South Carolina, the minute that the ball handler would have got across half court, timeout would have been called, set play would have been arranged. Because it's just the way you play. You don't want to play fast. You don't want to, get in some kind of situation where your pace kicks up. You have a certain road, right? You got a certain swerve, and it's slow. But Lamont, in a split second, he described it after the game. We're going to get some Lamont Paris, obviously, from the postgame. Lamont recognizes it, sees he's got clear path. He looks at his guys. They look calm and composed. One of the right guys get the ball in Michi. And Lamont's waving them, baby. He's windmilling them. Get on down court. And the play Michi makes, first of all, if you watch it, Michi brings it down court, looking to attack the defense. So Michi goes into attack mode. And you just see the way he's attacking. He's ready for one of two things to happen, right? If the Texas A&M big stays home, Michi's going to the rack. Either a layup or he's going to get fouled. If the big comes out to get him, he's looking for a pass. And Zach Davis, to his credit, recognizes what's going on and he cuts what we call weak side to the rack. It was just the old basketball head in me. I had tears in my eyes watching it. Because Michi, the decision making was so good in how he was putting the A&M defense in some type of peril, because he knew either he had a shot to go to the rim or he was going to dish to somebody for an easy layup. But it was. I mean, again, Michi last year doesn't do that, right? Michi's hoisting that baby last year. He might have pulled up at 30 and took a three. But Michi, it just shows you the growth and development of the player. And that's, again, a thumbs up to Michi and the coaching staff. But that play was that was South Carolina. They are in the top 10 in the country in assists per basket. And last night, I think they had 25 made hoops and 22 assists. I mean, it was just the way they move the ball. When that offense is right, the way they move the ball and the way they move without the ball can be surgeon-like. And on that play, it was, because Michi was like, all right, man, you're going to stay back. I'm going to the rack. You come at me, I'm going to pass it. And Zach Davis, he saw the weak side was open. And Zach Davis went the right cut, the right thought, the right play at the right time. Because you're taught, man, weak side's open, cut. Because you got to lay up. If they see you, you got to lay up. It just that last play was beautiful. To a basketball dork like me, man, that was mwah! That was good stuff. And for Lamont to recognize that moment in a split second, that no, we're not calling no bleeping timeout, man. We're going. We got the right guy with the ball. They're not putting heat on us. My guys are composed. Nobody looks rattled. Bring it. Let's go with the defense while they're scrambled, and let's cause havoc on the defense and make them make a bad decision. It was beautiful. That was just beautiful. So South Carolina gets the win. That's 2 straight road W's. You're in the tournament. Congratulations. You're in. You're in. You are. I mean, even if you lose 3 straight, you're in. Now, that puts you closer to a bubble, but you're in. If you win one of the last 3, obviously you're a lock. But I think you're in now. I do. And right now, the other thing is, all right, now the seeding for the SEC tournament, you're sitting in the 4-hole. Florida's coming to town. They're right behind you in the standings. You'd like to pull that W at home against a good Florida team that's playing excellent basketball. But you got Florida at home, you got Tennessee at home, you got Mississippi State on the road. Just win one of the last 3. And you're going to be sitting probably where you're at now. You know, get a 6 seed. You want to stay away from that 5 seed? No, thank you. No, thank you. But I think that win to me puts you in. And another win, if you want to breathe more, if you say, Tara, I get you, but I still, one more win will make me feel good, that's fine too. But nice work last night by the Gamecocks. All right, we'll get back in here. We got another addition to the football coaching staff. Been like that all off season, man. We're going to get into that next. Shane adding to the staff. I think that's the last move. You never know anymore. Knock on wood. That was my wooden leg. Knock on wood. That will be the last edition, and now you move forward with this coaching staff. We'll get into it next. It is a halftime show. Commander Ed punching the buttons. We are rolling up until 3 here on the game. Oh, it's a halftime show. Terry Ford, Ed Bird, making sure we don't do anything stupid up until 3 o'clock. I mean, he can't stop me from saying the many things I say stupid, but he can stop us from doing stupid things by punching up the controls. We go till 3, then it'll be the post-game show with Jay and Elijah on the game. Now, this afternoon, we're going to have a little fun. Battle of Bull Street is Saturday, obviously, at Segra. We got 4 pair of tickets to give away today and tomorrow on the post-game show. 2 today, 2 tomorrow. We're going to give you the heads up to give us a ring at 803-404-6100. And when you do, we're going to line you up, and we've got a trivia question. First person to get it right, bam, you get the tickets. We're going to make a multiple choice, too. So, first one to get it right, we'll get a pair of tickets. And we'll do it twice today and twice tomorrow on the post-game show here on the game. So that is coming up this afternoon. All right. It came out earlier today. It's been rumored. Mike Fury, former NFL wide receiver and defensive back, and will be the new wide receiver coach at South Carolina. He was a head coach at Limestone. Will be leaving Limestone to come to South Carolina. And hopefully this will put a bow on the very interesting coaching staff situations that have come up at South Carolina this year. I mean, I'm sure Shane Beamer didn't envision this to be the way it was. I mean, he made a change at running back coach. But then you have 2 guys on your coaching staff get head coaching gigs. So you got to replace those 2 guys. And then one of the guys you replace one of the guys with, after 6 weeks, bolts off to another job. And the guy you had a wide receiver coach and you moved to tight end coach decided, you know what, dude, no offense, I want to go be a wide receiver coach. And he took off. So it's been an interesting offseason with the coaching staff. Now, if you're not familiar with Mike Fury, and if you're a hardcore football fan, you know Mike Fury played multiple NFL teams, the Rams, played also for the Lions, I believe also Cleveland, and there's a couple other teams I can't remember. I'm just getting up his bio now. I missed Washington, and he was brought in the NFL as an undrafted free agent in Indy. So he spent time in the NFL. Then regarding coaching, he started off as a coach at Kentucky Christian as the head coach, then a receiver coach at Marshall, head coach at Limestone, receiver coach with the Bears, and then a head coach again at Limestone, and now will be the wide receiver coach at South Carolina. So, yes, he's got experience in the college game, again, not at a Power 5 school or a Group of 5 school or Division I level, but he had been in the college game. Well, no, I said Division I Marshall, I'm sorry. So he was at a mid-major at Marshall. And in the NFL with the Bears on Matt Nagy's staff. So that's the background on Mike Fury. And we'll see where it goes. Interesting hire. You try to connect the dots with Shane. Now, Fury wasn't with Dow Loggins in Chicago. That was a different coaching staff. So you're trying to go, okay, where would be the connection here with all this? But I'm sure that, again, Shane talks to people. They tell him, hey, look, this guy, whatever the case. But wide receiver for this team, yes, look, you got to recruit. Mike Fury's got to recruit. And so that's one thing. The other thing Fury can do is, develop wide receivers. And one of the things Shane had, talked about was they've got to get the wide receivers coached up. They got to see more development. Especially, you got a guy, Nicholas Harbor. Think about this. I mean, you got world-class speed with Nicholas Harbor. What you also have is a dude that has never played wide receiver. And if you can take Nicholas Harbor and work with him and develop the wide receiver skills that he needs to go with that world-class speed, you got one dangerous receiver. But you got other receivers, too, to develop, young guys. So, Mike Fury, yes, you have to recruit, but you also have to develop the guys in that room. And that will be, a huge job. Again, resume's interesting. played in other leagues besides the NFL. Was in the XFL with the Vegas Outlaws. Then he was with the New York Dragons in the Arena League. And he's a guy, too, that was a walk-on at Ohio State. And he's from Ohio. He's a walk-on at Ohio State. Didn't really get a lot of run in Columbus. Transferred to Northern Iowa and blew up as a wide receiver. Wasn't drafted coming out of college. Ended up hooking on, like I said, with Indy as an undrafted rookie free agent. Bounced around a couple different leagues. Then made the Rams squad and played in 13 games, wide receiver, special teams. He played some DB in his career. Had one really good year with the Lions where he caught, 90 balls. Something like that. I'm looking at it here. 98 catches, matter of fact, that year for over 1,000 yards. So he played the position in the NFL, played it in college. Has been a head coach on lower levels. Was a receiver coach at Marshall, receiver coach in the NFL. Brings a very interesting and a varied background. So we'll hear more from old Mike tomorrow. I believe it's 10:30 is the presser with Shane introducing Mike Fury as the new wide receiver coach at South Carolina. So we'll see where, again, the coaching staff is interesting. Interesting makeup of guys. You got some younger dudes in there. You got some older coaches. You got some real fiery guys. And now you bring in a guy who has been a grinder pretty much his whole career. From college to the NFL, even in coaching. I mean, you got a guy, he coached in the NFL with the Bears, and he coached at Marshall, but he also was at places like Kentucky Christian and Limestone. Someone says, yeah, man, I work at Limestone. Oh, construction company. No, it's a university. I'm a coach. So it's a very interesting background. You got guys on this coaching staff from a lot of different directions and experience and ages, and a very interesting makeup and staff. So, Mike Fury, the new wide receiver coach at South Carolina. All right, it is the halftime show. Terry Ford hanging out with you with Ed Bird. Do not forget, you can jump in and watch Game TV. It's powered by Integrated Media, sponsored by our pals at Shepherd's Glass. You can just go to YouTube, click in there, search Game TV, boom. You can see what we're live streaming one of our shows, and you click on there, and you can watch us talk sports. You can watch me move my hands. Look at that. Woohoo. Hey. You can do that. So you can check out Game TV. Also, our game app. You go to Google Play or iTunes. Hit 107.5 The Game on the app. Click it. Boom, you're in. And you can listen to us wherever you go on the game app. All right, we'll come back. And we will get back to our conversation about what happened last night in College Station with the South Carolina basketball team. A really nice, grind it out, gut it out, tough it out victory for the Gamecocks. We'll get more into that next. Hear from Lamont Paris, the head coach, coming up. It is a halftime show. Terry Ford, Ed Bird on the Game.
It comes into Garcia, back to Taylor. Taylor falls down at midcourt, and that'll do it. You can put Spurs on another Gamecock win on the road. There is a pileup on the court, 2 Aggies and a Gamecock on the court. It is Talon Cooper holding his right knee and shin as he got run into by Anderson Garcia and Wade Taylor. The Gamecocks win at 70-68. Now let's make sure Talon Cooper is okay. He is helped to his feet by his teammates, and he will limp back into the handshake line.
All right, there's Derek Scott and Judge Manning on the call last night. And again, Talon Cooper, obviously, you know, you're hoping that everything's okay with Cooper. It's just a crazy ending. South Carolina pulls the W over Texas A&M last night. 6th road win of the year for the Gamecocks. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Ed Birds here as we roll till 3 here on the game. All right, so those final seconds, you just heard it, was pretty nuts. Here is head coach Lamont Paris post-game talking about that end-game sequence with Meechie Johnson getting the ball and heading down court after A&M had tied it.
Big-time play. He's unselfish. We got an unselfish group. I'm telling you, maybe somebody else is in contention for the least selfish group out there, but I know ours is in there. And so, yeah, to get in that moment, who doesn't want to hit a game winner? I want to hit a game winner. If you would have thrown it to me, I'd have shot it. But, you know, to draw, he had made an explosive move to the basket to get by his defender. It was a really good change of pace and direction. Really good. And then the help came. And the wherewithal of Zach to find himself open at the basket versus open 14 feet away from the basket. I thought that was important. And then, obviously, you know, it's like a drill we do. We call it lane lines. You drive down the lane line, you drop the ball to your partner, and he sticks it in. That's what happened.
Yeah, it worked out perfect. That drill, that lane line drill, you saw it last night. It worked out perfect in that final game sequence. And we went over it in the first segment, just the way Meechie attacked and, you know, the way it was like, look, you defender, you come at me, I'm dishing it to my cutter who's beating you on the weak side as we speak. And if you're going to stay home, I'm going to the rim, and either I'm going to convert or you're going to foul me, and then I'm going to go to the line to win this thing. It was just, Meechie was fantastic what Meechie Johnson did in that end-of-game scenario. Also, defensively, on the last possession for A&M, remember, A&M had 3 seconds left. And they tried to do a little okey-doke on the inbound play by throwing it from one guy to another, whatever the case, and things got screwed up. And so they had to kind of, you know, take it normal with the flow. You get it to a ball handler. They're bringing up court. Wade Taylor's going to bring it up court, and he's going to chuck a 3. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. We were joking about it up in the office. We were all talking about the game. And even Preston and I were talking about it today, too. It's like A&M was so bad from 3. They were so woeful shooting threes. Your thought is, you know what? Yeah, they're going to inbound, especially here lately. And if you pay attention to college basketball or basketball in general, the NBA even, you've seen a couple of, like, half-court heaves for victories. And you're, like, thinking, last thing you want is Wade Taylor, the 4th, to get the ball, bring it down court, throw up a 35-footer, and the stupid thing goes in right at the buzzer. Taylor gets the ball, though, tries to dribble, lose the ball. He falls over. You get a big mosh pit. Ball rolls away harmlessly. South Carolina wins the game. Here is Lamont Paris, cut 8, Ed Bird, the defensive strategy on that final possession for A&M.
Keep the ball in front. I mean, make them come back to the ball if possible. Try to make them catch it in the back court if you could. You know, you say that, but at the same time, there is some merit to the ball advancing. These are all the decisions you got to make as a coach. There is some merit to the ball advancing inside the three-point line, and that is what?
You can't lose.
You can't lose unless you foul.
Right.
Right? So we opted to keep the ball as far away from their rim as possible, and, you know, you play it straight up, and if they bank a 3 in or something happens, you live with it. You got to live with it, but we did a good job. You know, excuse me, they fumbled it a little bit. That worked to our benefit. They didn't get a shot up, but what a great game.
Yeah, it was a fantastic game. And it just, what Lamont said there too, it's like, you don't want to, you don't want to foul them because they've been making their foul shots for a change. You don't want to foul them. And if they're going to throw up a prayer, like Lamont said, you throw up a prayer and bank a 40-footer, I mean, you just tip your cap and move on. Because, I mean, that's not a very high percentage shot at the end of a game. Last thing you want them to do is get to the rim. And look, Lamont's not going to say it, but they're a bad shooting team. Last thing you want to do is give them a layup or something close. You want to force them to fire it away from deep because they can't make that shot. They're under 30% from the season from three-point range, and last night they were even worse than that. They're not a good shooting basketball team. So, to me, that's perfect defensive strategy. Force them to fire up a shot that they're not very good at making. And if for some reason they make it, you go, all right, well, that's basketball. Just like that Ole Miss game, in Columbia here at CLA was, Ole Miss making mid-range contested long twos. That is the worst shot efficiency-wise in basketball. You want guys taking a lot of 18-footers with a hand in their face. That plays to your advantage. Ole Miss was making them. That's when you just go, nice shot, man. Your hope is they're going to take enough of those. Eventually, they're going to start missing them because it's such a low-efficiency shot in today's basketball. But when they're making them, nothing you can do about it. So if Texas A&M would have, flung up something from 35 feet, like Lamont said, it banks in, you go, oh, well, basketball gods, they took a dump on us today. So one other Lamont Paris cut there we'll do, Ed. Let's go with cut 9. Lamont, look, Texas A&M lives and dies on the offensive glass. That's their best offensive play. You shoot a shot, it's probably going to be a brick. We'll get the offensive rebound, and we'll have a putback. But last night, and the stat, I will double-check it because I actually have the old computer open now. I did this off the top of my head early, which is always dangerous these days. South Carolina pulled down 12 offensive rebounds to A&M's 11. A&M usually pulls an offensive rebound on 42% of their misses. Last night they did like 31. That's how good South Carolina did keeping A&M off the offensive board. Here's Lamont Paris. Let's go cut 9, Ed. Limiting the offensive rebounds for the Aggies.
Low percentage for them.
It really is.
It's a low percentage for them. So we did a good job. We battled in the first half was when I thought we didn't do quite as good a job early in the game. I think they had 6 second chance points in the first half, and so we didn't do quite as good a job in the first half, but in the second half, Colin Murray Boyles, can't say enough things about the young man, but he just rose above the crowd a couple times. Mm-hmm. And, it's a catch-22. I got on him another time because he didn't block out, and their guy ended up getting a rebound. But, he got up above the rim on a couple of these other ones, and I don't want to discourage him from going and snatching the ball when it's time to just go snatch the ball. And so part of learning is him learning that when you're at a disadvantage and it's time to just jump, or when you have a good advantage and you can block out. And but I thought he had some tremendous rebounds. There was a stretch where it's like he was all over the glass.
Yeah, and especially in the crunch time where he pulled some offensive rebounds. He also, picked up some rebounds on the other end of the court. I think 12 overall. Let me double check. I believe 12 rebounds for Colin Murray Boyles last night. Yep. 12 boards. Now, he went 4 for 5. He was massively efficient offensively, but he only took 5 shots because of foul trouble. 4 or 5 from the floor. Didn't get to the line, ended up with 8 points. But those 12 rebounds were large. And also, Colin Murray Boyles dished out 3 assists. He's affecting games in a variety of ways. Just a really nice young player. And he's become, in some ways, their most consistent offensive player. Look, Michi was really good last night offensively. 7 of 14 overall, 3 of 8 from 3, 5 of 7 from the line. Again, 5 boards, 3 dimes, only 2 turnovers. But, Michi has had his streaks this year where he hasn't contributed a lot offensively regarding points. B.J. Mack the same way. There's nights B.J. Mack is on it, and he's giving you 18, 20, 22, and there are nights, Mack will struggle. Like last night, B.J. Mack 2 of 8 from the floor, 1 of 5 from 3, only 6 points, and a lot of foul trouble. But Colin Murray-Boyle seems like he's at least efficient offensively game after game. He might not have wow numbers, but like last night, 4 or 5. I mean, you're popping 80% from the floor. It's fun to watch a young player like this develop through the season. So we'll get more Lamont Paris next hour. Pete Elwine Pool and Spa will sponsor the Lamont Paris postgame presser with Derek and Casey. That's coming up next hour here on the game. We'll get that in for you to take a listen to. All right, we'll get back in here. Firehouse Sub text of the hour at 803-404-6100 is coming up on the game. Also want to remind you, Grand Slam contest. It's sponsored by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. Every game, $25 is added to the pot. If a Gamecocks hitter rips a Grand Slam, you can win all the cash in the pot. Right now, it's sitting at $225. So $225. And if it doesn't happen Friday, it increases 25 and keeps going 25. So get in, go to 1075thegame.com, fill out the form. You've got to qualify every week. It's from the Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union, the Grand Slam giveaway. Come back, Firehouse Sub text of the hour. That is next at 803-404-6100 on the halftime show on the game. All right, time for our Firehouse Subtext of the hour at 803-404-6100. All right, let me take a look here. All right, this is Rodney, I believe. Last night was a weirdly officiated game. Rodney, I'm not going to lie to you. It was a little bizarre, a little strange. It was. There was there was a run in that game of some ticky-tack fouls, and then all of a sudden you let them play where there wasn't a call. Then there'd be some more ticky-tack fouls. Then you let them play, and it was a little strange. I forget which game. Was it Zach Davis? Went to the basket and just got annihilated, and there was like no call. But then out on the perimeter, like Talon Cooper would have the ball, and then there's a little ticky-tack like hand check or something. It was a very weird, I agree with you, a weirdly officiated game last night. Now, A&M, to their credit, look, I'm going to give Buzz Williams some props here. Buzz Williams is not known as an offensive genius. His teams typically are really good on defense, very intense. They grind, they rebound, and usually they have these talented offensive guys who just kind of make things happen. No one says, "Whoa, Buzz Williams, quite the impressive offensive system or strategist." Different guys are good at different things. It's not a knock. It's just, Buzz Williams has been very successful, except at A&M. Buzz Williams tried to speed up South Carolina with traps and just trying to get them to get their tempo up. And to the credit of the South Carolina ball handlers, they didn't fall for it. That's number one. Credit to South Carolina for not falling into the trap of A&M in various ways that the Aggies were trying to speed the game up. And I'll give Buzz Williams credit for trying to speed up South Carolina. So thumbs up. And also the way A&M continually attacks South Carolina on the dribble drive, going to the basket or in the paint. Because the more aggressive you are, typically, the more fouls you draw. And Buzz Williams at this point, again, he can't say it out loud. He's kind of, mildly talked about it. But if you're Buzz Williams, you're not going to get up and go, look, we can't shoot the ball to save our life. Our offense is collect our missed bricks and get putbacks or get to the foul line. But last night you saw A&M very aggressive, going to the 10 to try to either score easy buckets or get fouled. And they got fouled a lot. So I give A&M credit for some of the strategy they tried to incorporate to win that basketball game. It just, the getting fouled worked, but the trying to put pressure on South Carolina to speed them up didn't work. But yeah, the game was kind of, it usually, look, all you want as a coach or a player is consistency in the officiating, the refereeing, the umpiring. You just want consistency to know what's up, right? You're going to call it tight? Okay, I understand you're calling it tight. I now adjust as a player. You're not calling it tight? Okay, I'll adjust there too. Or in baseball, the umpire's got kind of a large strike zone. Oh, he's got kind of a small strike zone. You just want consistency, though. Last night didn't feel consistent in the officiating on either side. It felt like sometimes guys are just running over each other and no one's calling it, but then some little ticky-tack foul will get called and you go, like Colin Murray Boyle's fifth foul, I thought was a bad call. Hands were up, didn't reach, didn't break the whole verticality and all that, didn't slide in at the last minute or anything. I thought it was a legit good defensive play. I didn't think that was a fifth foul. But again, some of Murray Boyle's fouls earlier in the game are things that he's going to learn on time not to do. If he didn't do those, then you wouldn't have been in the position to foul out. But that fifth foul to me was a bad call. I was like, that's foul? Then they showed the replay. I'm like, hey, it's not foul. But yeah, thanks for the text. Yes, it was a very weirdly officiated game. I'll definitely agree with you. Absolutely. All right, 803-404-6100, Love Chevy phone line. Let's get to David's been holding on patiently to talk about the new wide receiver coach at South Carolina. David, you're on the Halftime Show. Welcome aboard. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. What you got for me?
Hey, I live in Ohio, and I was here when Mike Fury used to live here in Ohio when he's coached for Marshall. I want to say he's a great hire. This guy's a strong Christian man. His wife is involved with the football players and the team. And He's a good family man, exactly what Beamer's looking for. So that's real excited about hearing him being part of South Carolina football team now.
All right, fantastic. David, thanks for the insight on Mike Fury. We appreciate it. Thank you very much for the call. Thanks for listening. So there you go, a little background on Mike. And we'll get more tomorrow at 10:30 when Shane introduces Mike Fury to the media, and you'll hear it right here on the game in Columbia and also in Myrtle Beach. So that is coming up tomorrow, 10:30. Mike Fury, what we think is the last coaching hire for this go-around for South Carolina. We think. All right, we'll come back in here. Football. Brought to you by Atlantic Windows and Doors. And also, besides football, a little bit of Lamont Paris, the post-game presser, sponsored by Pete Ale Wine Pool and Spa. That's coming up. 803-875-MENS, the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. If you're just not feeling like yourself for a variety of reasons, it could just be low testosterone. It's very simple. One way to find out. Do what we hate to do as guys. We hate it. Pick up the phone, call 803-875-MENS, the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Make that phone call. Set up a free confidential consultation with Dr. Dan and the staff. If they think you could be suffering from low testosterone, they'll do a little lab work. If it comes back low T, then they'll sit down and put you in a program that's specifically designed for you. It's not designed for Frank Thomas or Doug Flutie. It's designed for you to help you get back to being you again. Get those testosterone levels back up, and all of a sudden, you can feel like the younger version of yourself. 803-875-MENS, the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Seriously, make the call. You might end up feeling a lot better. All right, in case you haven't heard, Terry Ford glad you can hang in here on the halftime show on the game. In case you haven't heard, there's a new wide receiver coach that will be introduced tomorrow, Mike Fury, who, again, played in the NFL with a multitude of teams, has been coaching, has been the head coach at Limestone University. 2 different times has been the head coach at Limestone. And will be leaving Limestone to come to South Carolina to take over the wide receiver room. Played wide receiver in the NFL, also played a little DB. Really good in college at Northern Iowa. Ohio guy, start off at Ohio State, will become the wide receiver coach for the Gamecocks. And it's interesting you bring a guy in who, did it really well on the collegiate level at Northern Iowa. Then, one season, we talked about this earlier, had 98 grabs in Detroit. So he's a guy that had a really good NFL season. He had some other decent years as well. Bounced around a bit in the league before he moved off and started his coaching career. He's a guy that, if you look at the bio of Mike Fury, and you do a little digging, he's a guy when he was in college, he started, it was after his freshman year, I guess, he fell in love with the weight room and getting himself in the best shape he could get in and get himself, as physically capable as possible to play college football. And if you see pictures of Mike, Mike's been to the gun show. There's no doubt about it. Mike is what my kid would call yoked. And Mike was a grinder. And so you're going to get a guy with that type of mentality coming in to coach the wide receivers. And, there's some young guys that will need development. We talked about earlier with Nick Harbor, front and center. A guy with that kind of physical ability I'm talking about athletic ability. When you see a guy like that and you go, whew, man, if you can teach that guy to play wide receiver, he's going to be seriously dangerous. Well, now you have someone coming in to coach the wide receivers like Nick Harbor, who has been there, done that on 2 levels. So we'll hear from Shane Beamer and the new wide receiver coach tomorrow at 10:30, the presser. All right, we've been going over the transfer portal for South Carolina. We went over some of the guys coming in, maybe some expectation level, maybe what you could see from him or them. We went over a bunch from yesterday. We want to continue doing some of that today. And another guy to look at that I think is a very interesting player. Not to think he's going to put up wow numbers, but I think he can be a real contributor, will be the tight end Brady Hunt from Ball State. Missed last year with an injury, but had been productive before that. Now, he's a guy that lined up in the slot 2 years ago about 30% of the time. So he can get moved around some, but he did line up in line or next to the tackle almost 70% of the time. So he can block, he can catch passes. Josh Simon is more of a pass-catching type tight end than he is a guy that's going to line up next to the tackle and just road-grade dudes in the run game. Hunt brings an interesting a skill set of kind of old-school type tight end. Yep, he can, run routes, catch passes, but he can also block. Obviously, Josh Simon, it seems like, will be the starter, but I think Brady Hunt can help. I really do, as a solid number 2 tight end. So Brady Hunt coming in, I think, is a guy that could be productive. Not putting up wild numbers, but a guy that can, bring some productivity to the table. And we talked about the edge position with Kennard, Gilbert Edmond coming back. And we did talk about a bit of interior defensive line, but we didn't really put a focus on Monkel Goodwine from Alabama, who's transferring in. He was stuck behind a bunch of high-level guys. Look, everybody's a 4- and 5-star at Bama, right? Goodwine was a highly recruited player out of high school. Just, got kind of stuck on the depth chart with the Crimson Tide. So you look at a guy who, again, was highly recruited, and you say, well, okay, so there's something there coming out of high school. Was he just stuck behind more talented guys or guys who are just developing quicker than him or whatever the case. So, hey, you bring in a guy from Alabama who was highly recruited, see where he's at. And what will Goodwine do? I don't know. We went over everything about DeAndre Jules yesterday, the Pitt transfer. But now you've got Tonka Hemingway, TJ Sanders, Boogie Huntley. You add Jules, you add Goodwine. If nothing else, these guys will add up to a nice rotation. That's your hope. And these players will stay fresh. So fourth quarter, you got fresh defensive tackles or interior defensive linemen, and not guys are sucking wind. And we'll see what Goodwine is. I mean, Goodwine, might be a rotational piece. Maybe he's more than that. Maybe he's less than that. Who knows? But taking a guy from Alabama who was highly recruited out of high school, smart move. And you just see where it ends up. So I really like that move of bringing in Goodwine because you just don't know. But we'll see. Also, Kamar Bell, linebacker. Or interior offensive lineman. I'm sorry, linebacker. Interior offensive lineman. He's got a lot of experience. Can play guard or center. Can back up all over the place. Again, what do you got with Kamar Bell? I don't know. But you look, the way the offensive line rolled last year with all the injuries and forced to play guys you didn't want to play, you can't have too many offensive linemen, right? He also brought in Aaron Parks, an Oklahoma transfer, just like Goodwine. Parks was a 4-star coming out of the DMV, played in 8 career games, didn't really become a regular, consistent starter at Oklahoma. But you give him a shot here and see what happens. He's an offensive lineman, see where he could fit in. He'll probably start back up at tackle. You get him out there in spring ball. You put him out there in the summer, and you just don't know. But a guy, a 4-star, coming out of high school, playing at Oklahoma. Okay, let's bring him in and see what he's got. Again, not a bad move at all. Not a bad move. The wide receiver room also has added some folks. Greg Larvadain from Miami of Ohio. Again, nobody is big. Nobody's like 6'2", 6'3" with these wide receivers coming in. Larvadain was productive. Last year, 42 grabs, almost 700 yards, 6 touchdowns. Not a big guy, but he's got speed and quicks. And people who've seen him play say he's got solid ball skills. And, again, he put up some numbers last year at a mid-major. And we'll just see where he ends up. He could be a guy that ends up playing a ton of slot and really doesn't line up out wide. But we'll see how these pieces fit. We were talking about Jared Brown yesterday from Coastal. I mean, he's not a big guy either, but he played mostly slot, but he did play outside some. So maybe you see like a Brown playing more as a boundary-type wide receiver, and a guy like Larvadain really exclusively in the slot. But what South Carolina has added is some guys who are quick, fast, and if you throw them the ball, they can make dudes miss. And you're getting some yak yards out of the deal. Larvadain's one of those guys. Linebacker room, I like the additions. I really do. Demetrius Knight, very productive. Adds speed to the linebacker room, was a former high school quarterback. I think he goes right into the rotation at linebacker. We'll see if he's a starter or a backup, but he's going to get run. He's going to get reps. There's no doubt. And remember, Bam Martin Scott really came on at the end of the year. We saw there's some different things. I mean, Mo Kaba's coming back from injury. We'll see where the linebacker position goes for South Carolina. You got a bunch of people coming back. You did lose Stone Blanton and Pup Howard. You still have Debo Williams. So Demetrius Knight will be interesting, and so will the other linebacker that came in, Bengali Kamara from Pitt. Another guy who feels like a rotational piece. Depth. Depth is your friend. If you can look on defense, obviously you want a bunch of guys who are game wreckers, right? But you also would like to have a depth of rotation, not just for injury, but like we talked about with the defensive line. If you can rotate players and have healthy bodies in the fourth quarter when it's winning time, nothing wrong with that. And with this 3-3-5 scheme, things are changing a little bit. Or if you go back to a 4-2-5 at times. So we'll see what Bengali Kamara brings. But with Kamara and with Knight, you've added some quality depth to your linebacker room with the guys you already have with Bam Martin Scott and Debo and players of that ilk. So you got better at linebacker is what I'm saying. I will continue this. We'll do a little bit more tomorrow. We got a few left on the list we'll get to tomorrow. Just kind of refresh your memory on the transfer portal. There was a lot of cats coming in this year. And like we talked about yesterday. Bringing in a bunch of guys with either experience, high ceiling, former highly recruited players. Nothing wrong with any of that. Nothing wrong with it. So we'll get to more of the transfer portal, folks, tomorrow. We are talking football in the 1 o'clock hour. We will take a pause at the bottom of the hour. Let you hear Lamont Paris's post-game presser, sponsored by Pete Alewine Pools and Spa. That'll be coming up at the bottom of the hour when Lamont was talking to Derek and Casey Manning, in case you missed it. We got that racked and coming up here in just a little bit on the game. Also, speaking of games, tonight we have Carolina Calls at 6 with Coach Paris. 8:30 pregame, 9 o'clock tip from Fayetteville. The undefeated top-ranked women will take on Arkansas. You can hear it right here on 107.5 The Game in Columbia. Again, 8:30 pregame, 9 o'clock tip. They have the best producer for that, like, in the country. What is that guy's name? Ed something. Bird. That's right. Brad Muller on the call. Our buddy Ed Bird will be producing that baby. That is tonight, 8:30 pregame, 9 o'clock tip, right here on the game. Football in the halftime show. Scooch back in here. There's been a lot of yapping from the NFL Combine. So let's get into some of that in our next segment right here on the game. We're running football here in the 1 o'clock hour on the game. Terry Ford, Ed Bird, glad you could be hanging out with us. All righty, so Combine going on in Indianapolis. The Underwear Olympics is it's rolling. It's rolling. A note from the Combine, Iowa corner Cooper DeJean, who a lot of folks believe will go high in the NFL draft. He said recently he started to run at full speed, acknowledging he's still recovering from the broken leg that ended his season at Iowa. DeJean said Thursday at the scouting combine he suffered a fractured fibula during that mid-November practice, underwent surgery, missed the Hawkeyes' final 4 games. He's rehabbing. Look, this guy can play. He's a number 15 player on Mel Kiper's big board. I feel like he'll still go in the first round. I mean, it's not like 1961. You come back from a broken leg, DeJean will be fine, and he's an excellent DB. An excellent DB. But DeJean talking about the whole process of coming back from the fractured fibula, discussing it today at the Combine. The cool thing with the Combine has become a couple other things. Besides, this kind of ridiculous process where guys in their underwear get weighed on big Toledo scales while people watch, which is a little weird. Also, you got your workouts with the 40s and the shuttles and the vertical leaps and how many times can you bench 225 and, throwing, catching, putting running backs through different drills. You have the interviews and the whiteboard for quarterbacks and blah, blah, blah. There's also 2 things that has grown. One, it's grown to be where coaches and front office folks network to when they need a gig, or if they do need a gig, or they're looking for a gig, they can kind of, get the what's up with other folks. They can meet decision makers, movers, and shakers. The other thing it's become, though, is a place where you get info from owners and coaches and GMs, and a lot of people yap at the Combine. And the New England Patriots, Elliott Wolf has taken over the front office. Elliott Wolf is the son of Ron Wolf, who basically was the architect of those Packer teams in the 90s that went to 2 Super Bowls and won one with Brett Favre and Mike Holmgren and all those folks. Elliott Wolf is now taken over in New England. Most folks thought Elliott Wolf eventually would be a GM. Now he's the guy in charge in New England. And the talk is, do the Patriots stay at 3 and snag their quarterback of the future? Or do they trade back, accumulate picks, and start rebuilding a roster that has a lot of holes? Because Bill Belichick, for as great as he is as a head coach and as good as he used to be as a talent evaluator / GM, Bill Belichick, the GM, has miserably failed Bill Belichick, the head coach, the last so many years. Wasted away a lot of premium draft picks. It just wasn't good. So Elliott Wolf has got to fill this roster and get the talent level back up. And there are people saying, no, you don't draft that quarterback at 3. You trade down, you accumulate picks and draft capital so you can fortify the roster. Then maybe next year go get your quarterback. Now, I understand that, but to me, this is very simple. What do you think of the 3 quarterbacks? I don't think you ever take a quarterback just to say, hey, we took a quarterback, look at us. You got to take a guy you believe in, especially this high in the draft. And if you love all 3, if you think any of the 3 can be a franchise quarterback, then if you're New England, you stick at 3 and you take them. If you love 2 of the 3 and you want to get one of those because you think that could be your franchise quarterback, you make a phone call, you move up, and you get the one you like. But if you look at those 3 quarterbacks and say, they're good, but we're not super sold on them as, being our next big franchise quarterback, then you trade down. And you accumulate draft picks, and you fill the holes in your roster, and then you kind of look at the quarterback situation with some veteran dude or just some placeholder guy, and you go back at it next year looking for your franchise quarterback. It just depends on how you feel about Williams, Daniels, and May. It's most likely Drake May will land in your lap at 3. Do you believe in Drake May? There's a ton of arm talent. There's a really nice deep ball. More mobile than you would believe for his size. But he does make some head-scratching throws at times where you go, why'd you make that decision, bub? But there's a lot of talent in Drake May, but just do you believe Drake May can be a franchise quarterback in the league? If you say, no, his decision-making really turns us off, we're not sure, then don't take him. Trade down. Or if, Daniels, falls in your lap and someone takes May at 2, and do you take Jaden Daniels because you really love him? If you're not sold on him, again, trade down. To me, it's not difficult for the Patriots which direction you would go. Another team that's going to need a quarterback in case something really changes is the Raiders. And Antonio Pierce wants the Raiders to be aggressive at quarterback. Tom Telesco is the new GM. He talked yesterday. Look, Aiden McConnell was the quarterback last year. It was. There were moments McConnell, looked like an NFL quarterback, and there were times he looked like he should be quarterback in your flag football team in that keg beer league. I don't know if you get sold on an Aiden McConnell. Again, I'm not there every day. Saw the Raiders play some last year. I don't look at Aiden McConnell as a guy that you're going to go hoist the Lombardi Trophy with or win a lot of playoff games with. Could he get better? Could I be wrong? Sure. I was wrong 67 times yesterday. I could be absolutely wrong. But the Raiders are in a tough spot because you're picking at 13. So what do you do? I mean, do you go up future first-round picks if you love one of those 3 quarterbacks in the top of the draft, see somebody who wants to trade with you? If you love one of those guys, I mean, what do you think of J.J. McCarthy? There are people who really like J.J. McCarthy. I'm not really sold on J.J. McCarthy. I think he's a huge question mark. J.J. McCarthy could become a really nice franchise quarterback, or J.J. McCarthy might look in the mirror and see Mac Jones, which, again, would be a little weird. I just don't know enough about J.J. McCarthy to take him in the first round, or at least in the top 15. There's people who love him say he's accurate, he's smart, he's mobile, he was, a leader, he has all these great traits and blah, 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 blah. The people who aren't sold says, hey, he didn't do anything in that offense. It wasn't a pro-style offense. They really didn't ask him to do a whole lot. They ran the ball a ton. They didn't really, say, hey, JJ, go win us a game. So can he be that guy? Because he was never asked to be that guy at Michigan. I just don't think you have enough intel to pull the trigger on J.J. McCarthy in the top 15. That's just me. But if you're the Raiders and you like J.J. McCarthy and you're sitting at 13 and he's still available, as the board plays itself out, do you trade up and go get J.J. McCarthy? And if J.J. McCarthy does fall to you at 13, do you put the card up for him? What do you think of him? Again, don't just take a quarterback because you need one. That's not a smart thing. The Vikings, years ago, you've probably heard of Christian Ponder, or maybe you heard of his wife, Samantha Ponder, on ESPN. Christian Ponder was taken in the top 15 by the Minnesota Vikings. And it was like, what? Huh? Was he got blackmail pictures? No way, shape, or form Christian Ponder should have been taken in the top 15. Really shouldn't have went in the first round. I think it was Mike Lynn was the GM at the time. Again, the top of my head doesn't work as good as it used to. But the Viking front office basically said, well, we needed a quarterback. Not we love Christian Ponder. We love this about him, that, and this. I remember the quote was, we didn't need a quarterback. That's not the reason to take a quarterback in the first round. When you draft by need, at some point you end up reaching for an unemployment check. Because you reach. Whenever you draft for need, you're typically reaching. You draft for value. You just do. Every smart team drafts for value. So again, the moral of this story is don't draft a quarterback because you need one. Draft the quarterback because you're sold on him. You think this guy with development and hard work and our coaching and our infrastructure and culture, this guy's going to be our franchise quarterback for a while. That's why you take a dude in the first round. That's just me. All right, that's some stuff from the Combine. Halftime show. Terry Ford, glad you can be hanging. Up next, we will kick into the Lamont Paris post-game presser from last night with Derek and Casey. It's sponsored by PL Wine Pool and Spa. That's coming up next on the Halftime show on the Game. All right, halftime show. Terry Ford, Ed Bird steering the wheel here up until 3 o'clock on the game. All righty. Last night, Lamont Paris talking to the media. Post-game presser from Coach Paris. Going to let you hear it in its entirety with Derek and Casey. Sponsored by Pete Alewine Pool and Spas on Sunset in Lexington. Hit it, Ed Bird. Yeah, so there is Lamont Paris postgame presser along with Derek, Casey, and the crew after just a really, really nice win in College Station. Gut check, you blew a 13-point lead, but then you got yourself together, went out and won the basketball game. And, while South Carolina was getting themselves together in those last 4 or 5 minutes, starting to, run offense better, Texas A&M just started throwing up shots from all over the place. It's like, all right, we got the lead. Now chuck me a contested off-balance 18-footer. Why not? South Carolina got more precise with what they did on offense, while Texas A&M just kind of went a little goofy and sideways. I'll say this, and we were talking about this morning, just hanging out here. Preston and I and Tyler were talking about it. During that 17-1 run with Texas A&M, I'll tell the truth. I think it was after B.J. Mack just hoisted that 27, 28-foot three. Nobody was moving. Everybody's just standing around. Mack's like, yeah, what the heck? I'll shoot that thing. Woo! I was like, okay, call timeout. Call timeout, Lamont. I know you don't like to call timeouts and you like to let your players work themselves through trouble. Brother, I love you. Call timeout. And for me, just watching it, if you're running really good offense, you're just missing shots, then play through it, right? Because you're doing the right things, you're just not making buckets. But when you're just all kind of standing around looking at each other and you want to shoot it, yeah, why don't you shoot it? I don't feel like it. You shoot it. Well, shot clock's running down. I'll throw it up there. We'll see what happens. Just weren't running crisp offense. I'm like, call timeout, man. Get these guys together. Run a set something, and get them together with a timeout. But Lamont let it go through to a certain point, finally called a timeout when he got to a 17-1 run. And when South Carolina did come back out, they had themselves together, and then they made the run to get the lead back and eventually win the game. All right, we'll come back in here. Our Firehouse Sub text of the hour at 803-404-6100. That is next here on the Halftime Show. Terry Ford, Ed Bird's here. We're rolling up until 3 on the game. Time to check out the old Firehouse Up Text the Hour, 803-404-6100. Okay. This one was from, Day. Sends us a text saying, we can lose out, talking about South Carolina basketball, and won't fall below an 8 seed. Yeah, I think that, and I get it. Trust me, I have enough folks around here. I get the mentality of a Gamecock men's basketball fan. Nothing's ever for sure until it's for sure. But I feel like that win last night pretty much cements South Carolina in the dance. Which, man, if you think about that, you start the year, pick 13th, 14th in the league, just whichever prognosticator, go ahead and snag one. And you go from that to sitting right now in the top 4 in the SEC with a chance to get the double bye in the tournament, and you're going to make the NCAAs. And you are arguably the story of the year in college basketball. You're the Cinderella of the season in the Power 5. Nobody saw this coming. Lamont Paris, I'm guessing, will be National Coach of the Year, or at least right there in the running, depending on how this thing plays out. But it's been a phenomenal story. It's been fun to watch, and they're in. They're going to be in. And again, if you want to feel a little bit better, going, okay, Terry, I'm not with you yet because, again, my psyche's damaged for all these years. You get one more, that'll make you feel better. But I think they're in. We'll see where it goes. Right now, a 6 seed in Joe Lunardi's bracketology. Around that 5-6 line, basically, is where they're at. But, I mean, they're in. It's been a great ride. It's been fun to watch. It's fun to watch, too, because when you look at the parts, I mean, again, Michie Johnson has nights where he's a difference maker offensively. And there's nights where Michie, struggles to score. Talon Cooper is an excellent point guard. You saw it last night, almost a triple-double last night. 11 points, 9 dimes, 8 boards. But Cooper's not a guy that can take over a game and just score 20-something, right? B.J. Mack, when B.J. Mack's on, he's scoring inside, he's scoring outside, but there are nights B.J.'s not on. Colin Murray Boyles is a freshman, but man, has he come along. And you love what Zach Davis brings. Maybe one day Zach Davis will be a solid shooter from 3. But right now, Zach Davis's game and where he's really effective and efficient offensively is like for that game-winning hoop last night. Cutting to the rack, slashing to the basket, whether it's taking a pass on the weak side or cutting the baseline or putting the ball on the deck with a few dribbles, not a lot of dribbles, but a few dribbles, and taking it hard into the paint. That's where Zach Davis is thriving. But if you take those guys, all those 5, for example, individually, you're going, okay, solid guys there. Murray Boyle's a huge upside, but okay, they're fine. But you put them together, they play so well as a team on both ends of the court. They pass the basketball so well. They're 9th in the country, according to Ken Palm, in assists per basket. And last night they had 25 baskets, 22 assists, something like that. It's just been fun. And to see what Lamont Paris has done this year, look, there were a lot of folks that had the eyebrow up and scratching their head from the point Lamont was hired till the end of last year. And again, last year didn't go well. And folks were like, did South Carolina hire the right dude? Seems that way now. And at some point, look, you might say, hey, Terry, you got to slow the roll on the contract extension because you saw what happened with Muschamp. You don't want to be eating a big $15 million meal. I understand it. I do. But the circumstances on this might lead you to having to take that chance that what you're seeing this year is sort of where this program is going to be. You got to take a chance. Are for sure? Probably not, because 1 year, you just never know. But there's going to be suitors for Lamont Paris. And I think if you don't do something, there's a really good chance you would lose him. Right now, here's a list of SEC coaches that are making less than Lamont Paris. Okay, list is done. If you believe in Lamont Paris, and you see day in and day out the job he's doing, you see the results of this basketball team on the court, the one-loss record, you're going to have to take that shot and take the chance and take the hope that this is going to be sustainable, and moving forward, this is the kind of program, maybe not year in, year out, but most of the time you're going to have a program that's going to compete for an NCAA tournament bid, get in the dance maybe 3 out of 5 years, whatever the case, and be a good program. And you take the leap thinking this is where it's going, this is in the direction it's heading. And you give Lamont Paris an extension and a raise with that new deal. So you keep him in Columbia. Because if you don't, because you're saying, I don't know, 1 year, I'm a little uncomfortable. I understand that. But just the way the thing is playing out, and you're seeing the lay of the land coming up in the offseason, you might have to take that chance. What's that old saying? You make 0% of the shots you don't take. Because if Lamont Paris leaves and builds a program into not only a perennial NCAA tournament program, but a program that actually occasionally goes deep into March, you got some splaining to do. Just saying. So appreciate the text like always. And our Firehouse sub, text of the hour at 803-404-6100. All right, coming up here in a little bit, Olin Buchanan from Tex Ags Radio and Sports Radio The Zone in College Station. We're going to get the perspective of the other side from what happened last night. A little recap of a very interesting game at A&M. So that's coming up 2:15. Also, we're going to see what's trending at 2 here on the game as well. Terry Ford, Ed Bird, halftime show, 1 hour to go, right here on the game. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Ed Bird today on the game. Time to roll what's trending at 2. Sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. What's trending at 2 to start with is our little Twitter X poll we're doing. Our question of the day, with the Gamecocks holding sole possession of third place in the SEC with Florida, Tennessee, and Mississippi State left to play. 2 of those 3 are at home. Where do you see the team finishing in the SEC standings? First place, 12%. Second or third place, 56%. Fourth place, 23%. Outside the top 4, 8%. So if you're super glass full, you're going, first place in the SEC, baby. 2 of these 3 are at home. Bring it on. Second or third place, 56%. I mean, that thought is you possibly win 2 out of 3. Or if you do only win 1 of the 3, you're going to get some help because everybody's beating each other up in the SEC. Fourth place at 23%, that's saying, you're probably going to go 1 and 2. Outside the top 4 means you're going to crater the last 3 games. I feel like this team, I think third or fourth feels right. Could you finish higher? Yes. I feel like Florida's really good, but you're going to play a slow pace against Florida. And teams that play fast get really frustrated when they get sucked into a slow game. So I look at Florida. I can see them easily frustrated. And there we go. I can see Florida getting easily frustrated with the pace of the game because South Carolina is going to just suck away possessions that Florida wants because Florida plays fast. Alabama, Kentucky, and Florida are the 3 fastest paced teams in the SEC. Florida's in the top 35 in the country in tempo. I can see South Carolina winning that game just, by playing their style and their tempo and their way, and Florida getting frustrated. Make no mistake, Gators are good. Florida could come here and win, no doubt. Tennessee is looking for revenge. They're not in a good mood. South Carolina showed up in Knoxville, smacked them, and stole all the food out of their refrigerator. So Volunteers are going to come in here and get a W. Florida's very talented. Could they win? Sure. Mississippi State and Starkville, Bulldogs should have beat Kentucky, screwed the whole thing up. But that's a winnable game. Mississippi State can struggle on offense. The kid Hubbard, the freshman's really good. Mississippi State plays a lot of tenacious, in-your-face defense. I feel like that's a winnable game. And again, South Carolina's won 6 roadies already. I can see a 2-1 at the end in some way, shape, or form. I really can. I think that's a third or fourth place finish. But it doesn't matter. If you're in the top 4, you get the double bye. That's fantastic news. So our Twitter X poll right now, folks are leaning towards second or third place, with fourth place second. First place is third. Outside the top 4, when you think they're going to totally crater, is 8%. And we appreciate you jumping in right now. 130 votes. You've had this thing going less than 2 hours. That's on 107.5 The Game on Twitter X. All right, coming up here in just a little bit, Olin Buchanan from Texags Radio and also Sports Radio, The Zone, 93.7 and 1150 in College Station. We're going to yap with Olin about last night's game, just get a perspective from the Texas A&M side. Also, just in a few minutes, Ed Bird, we're going to give away a pair of tickets for the basketball game versus Florida, the men taking on Florida. That's coming up right before we get out of here in this segment. So be ready for that. All right, Ed Bird, we're going to get you punching up buttons here. The women tonight, 8:30 pregame, 9 o'clock tip here on 107.5 The Game in Columbia. All right, let's get some Dawn Staley sound as they take on Arkansas. Here's Dawn Staley talking about Arkansas and how many threes they jack up. Cut 4, Ed Bird, Dawn Staley.
I mean, you can run them off the line all you want. They're going to take. Yeah. They lead the nation in attempts, 3-point attempts. So they're going to take them. We just have to make sure that we're not giving them open looks. Do we want to run them off? Yes, we do want to run them off, but running them off also may lead to, uncontested layups. So we don't want that. I mean, I think the way that we've played them over the past couple of years has been great. Just our ability to we don't really control the 3-point attempts. We control what looks they get and what looks they get at the rim. So.
Yeah, I mean, nobody chucks more threes than Arkansas in women's college basketball. But it's not like they make them at a wow rate. They're hitting about just a little bit under 31% from three. They're going to take them, though. They are. And if they do have a night where they're making them, they become dangerous. But again, we talk about this all the time. Should South Carolina win in Fayetteville tonight? Sure. Not guaranteed. Arkansas could go on a heater from three, and all of a sudden you're in a dogfight. 18-11 basketball team of the Razorbacks, 6-8 in the SEC. The ultimate live by the three, die by the three crew. So here's more from Dawn talking about, South Carolina has had some slow starts. They've had some fast starts. Obviously, you always want to start fast in basketball games. Cut three, Ed Bird. Dawn.
I mean, it's something we emphasize every game. It just doesn't. They don't execute it as well as we want them to execute it. And I think, teams have something to do with that. And it was good for us to just impose our will on both sides of the basketball and just play well from start to finish.
I mean, again, we always say start fast. Like I thought last night, the men needed to get a fast start, versus a desperate Texas A&M squad in College Station, just because, again, you start slow, the other team builds a lead, crowd gets all lathered up, mascots jumping around the court, everybody starts going wacko. So if you can get a good start and neutralize the crowd, that's always important. And plus, you kind of get yourself, you get comfy, right, with a nice start. So you always want fast starts. Now, the women have had some clunky starts. The Alabama game was a clunky start, for an example. They've had some slow starts at times, but they eventually get it cooking. All right. Also, another one, Ed Bird from Dawn Staley. Cut number 2 about how some of the big wins this team has had has built confidence.
As opposed to playing bad, I think it really helps us confidence-wise, both sides of the basketball, and then resting on Monday and then coming back. I mean it helps us exhale a little bit and see really how we played prior to just having the heaviness of the season. Sometimes you can't get out of it, but this team found a way to get out of it on the court in a game and then come back and have 2 productive practice days.
All right, again, that is tonight here on the game, 8:30 pregame, 9 o'clock tip. The women. I just knocked out my earbuds again. I have a gift. I knock them out at least 5 times a show. The women tonight against Arkansas in Fayetteville. And the one thing about, I always go back, and Tyler and I were talking about this yesterday, that win in Baton Rouge. I mean, the crowd is crazy, right? LSU's, we're the top dog in the SEC now. We won the national championship. We're going to show everybody we're the top program in the conference, if not the country. This is our chance to, bam, drop our statement. Yeah, we won the national title, but we didn't beat South Carolina last year. Didn't win the SEC regular season or the SEC tournament. Now we're going to stand on business, baby. I love that saying. And what happened? South Carolina down most of the game. When it was money time in the fourth quarter, Gamecocks made the plays, Tigers didn't. South Carolina walks out of Baton Rouge with a W. I think that one told everybody on that basketball team, yeah, we're really good. All right, tonight again, 8:30 pregame, 9 o'clock tip. Brad on the call, Ed Bird on the controls. Women's basketball here on 107.5 The Game. All right, there seems to be, according to folks, there is momentum. Pete Thamel, Heather Dinich, ESPN. There is momentum for the 14-team playoff. Feels that way. Bill Hancock, there's a 1-month deadline of mid-March to get this thing done. There's optimism and momentum for a 14-team playoff starting in 2026. There's an effort to come to the agreement in the next coming weeks, but nothing is certain. There are potential roadblocks and expected pushback, according to this post. But the hope is to get this thing done. It feels like, to me, the biggest pushback is going to be when the SEC and the Big Ten say, here's how many automatic bids we want. That's going to be the fight. Or are you going to change the idea of, the conference champions get automatic bids and the two highest rated ones get buys? How are you going to work this thing? That's where, to me, all the sticking points become. Because the SEC and the Big Ten have gotten smart. That Kevin Warren mess is gone. Tony Petitti has said, you know what? Why am I fighting the SEC? The SEC and I are the two Goliaths here. Let's get together and do what's best for us. That's where I think a lot of the pushback and fight is going to be. Automatic bids, buys, things of that nature. The SEC and Big Ten are going to want a big share. How is that going to go? But they feel like they got momentum going to get a 14-team playoff. I feel like eventually it's going to get to 16. That's where we're going. You almost feel like just go to 16. But they're not ready for that yet for, I don't know, logistical reasons, whatever the case. But eventually I think it's a 16-team playoff before it's all said and done. I just do. There are folks who hate this. They want to go. They want to go back to the BCS championship game. They want to go back to the coaches and the media voting for national champions. There are folks who are just diehard traditionalists who can't stand this. I like it. I just want to make sure you still, the regular season still needs to matter. One of the things I love about college football is its regular season matters more than any other sport. And I get it. The more playoff teams you add, it won't matter as much. But I still want to see the regular season have to matter a great deal. But I'm good with expanding the playoff field. I just am. But I know people, they can't stand it. They're like, I want to go back to the media and the coaches voting, just like the good old days. Yeah, no. Want to go back to 8-track tapes? They weren't great. So anyway, there's momentum for a 14-team playoff. I think eventually it gets to 16. We'll get back in here. Olin Buchanan is going to hop on with us. Texags Radio and also Sports Radio The Zone, 1150 AM, 93.7 FM. Talk about what happened last night from a Texas A&M perspective. That is coming up. Also, your chance to win tickets for the Battle of Bull Street between 3 and 6 on the postgame show. A little Battle of the Bull Street Gamecocks baseball trivia is coming up in the 4 and 5 o'clock hour. You can win a pair of tickets to the big game at Segra. Coming back, we'll talk more about what happened last night at Texas A&M with Olin Buchanan. That's a halftime show. Terry Ford, Ed Bird, till 3 on the game. All right, we'll get back to talking about Mike Fury, the new wide receiver coach here at South Carolina. Again, 10:30 tomorrow morning. Shane Beamer will introduce Mike. You'll hear it right here on the game in Columbia and also Myrtle Beach. All right, right now, though, let's spin back to what happened last night in College Station. A 2-point South Carolina victory over Texas A&M. Let's get Olin Buchanan in from Texags Radio, Sports Radio, The Zone, and College Station. Olin, appreciate you jumping in, man. Thanks a lot, first of all.
Oh, sure, no problem. My pleasure.
A lot to unpack last night, man. From your perspective, watching how everything unfolded for 40 minutes, what was your number one takeaway from the loss last night for Texas A&M?
A&M can't shoot. It's really pretty simple. If you look at the play stats, A&M is I think there's 351 teams listed, and A&M is 350 in three-point shooting, and they made 2 of 17 and lost by 2 points. Now, maybe if they would have taken 15 three-pointers and would have attacked the basket more, because that's when they had some success. But A&M is a team that's very limited offensively. I was very impressed with the way South Carolina ran its offense and moved the ball around, passed a lot, got 20, I think it was 22 assists, got a lot of layups. A&M typically likes to isolate with either Boots Radford or Wade Taylor and see if they can't, get a layup or draw a foul. And they did a good job drawing fouls. A&M was 22 of 25 at the foul line last night, but they don't shoot the three ball well at all. And I'm sure Coach Paris is keenly aware of that. Buzz talked about how he didn't think they took any bad shots from three-point range. I'm thinking, yeah, that's not the issue. If they're bad shots, they're not going to make good ones. And I'm sure Coach Paris was inviting them to take those three-pointers. So good coaching on South Carolina's part.
Olin Buchanan hanging out with us from Texags Radio, Sports Radio, The Zone, and College Station here on the game. Olin, you bring up an interesting perspective on it where, you watch South Carolina run their offense and how they move without the ball and things of that nature. And Texas A&M, it's like you said, it's isolation, a lot of standing around, a lot of one-on-one stuff. And then when dudes hoist shots, they're not making them. Whether it's from three-point line, inside the three-point line. Offensive rebounds are such a big thing with A&M. And they would pull 42% of their missed shots, typically number one in the country. Last night only got 31% of their missed shots. How much was that a factor? Or like you say, you just go back to you wouldn't have to offensive rebound so much if you could make some bleeping shots.
Yeah, it's a factor because A&M needs to quite frankly, need to shoot more shots than their opponent, and they didn't. They need to shoot more shots because they miss more shots, and they realize they're going to do that. And I thought South Carolina did a really nice job on the boards, even on the offensive boards for South Carolina there at the end. A&M was trying to get some stops when I guess it was 68-66, so it didn't hurt them at the time. But, they might have gotten more opportunities to score on the offensive end. But I'm talking about for A&M, had they gotten some defensive boards? But I think there was a time when South Carolina got 3 offensive boards on one possession. Again, it's been a recurring issue for A&M. For the last 2 years, they were able to do that ISO and just attack the basket and be successful with it. Hey, it got them to the finals of the SEC tournament the last 2 years. But I think more teams are figuring it out, and maybe they were better shooting threes. They've never been great at it, but maybe they were better. In fact, I know they were better in the last couple of years. I mean, this year they're just abysmal. And they have no really game to speak of other than, maybe getting a putback. But they can't run an offense through low post or anything like that. So they're highly limited. When you don't have an inside game and you can't shoot three-pointers, really what else is there? You try to drive and draw fouls.
Olin Buchanan hanging out, talking a little bit about what happened last night in College Station. Gamecocks, a 2-point win over the Aggies. Of course, Olin jumping with us from Texags Radio, Sports Radio, The Zone, here on the halftime show in the game. All right, so Olin, as you step back, it looks like, unless Texas A&M makes a massive run and wins the SEC tournament, they're going to miss the dance. Buzz Williams, there's some rumblings I hear that, fan base isn't happy. Buzz has only been to the dance one time since he's been in College Station. What are your thoughts on Buzz Williams at this point at A&M?
I think he's been a tremendous disappointment. I guess we're getting used to disappointing coaches around here. He makes $4.1 million. I think I heard that was number 11 in the country. That may be off the one or two, but they've done some nice things in the tournament. They went to the finals of the and championship game of the NIT. Big deal for the NIT. That means you're number 69. They didn't win it, so I guess they were number 70. And then last year, they got into the NCAA tournament and laid an egg against Penn State. I thought they had a flawed game plan and never adjusted to what Penn State was doing. And then this year, you open up the season, you're ranked number 2 in the SEC. You're ranked 15 in the nation. You got Boots Radford coming back, Wade Taylor coming back, Henry Coleman coming back, Andy Garcia. A lot of guys that played had significant roles last year. And you started off great, have a win over Iowa State, have a win over SMU, lost to Houston by 4 when you were shooting free throws with 6 seconds to go to try to tie it. In the SEC play, and they've beaten Kentucky, they've beaten Florida, they've beaten Tennessee. But they're kind of bipolar because then they lose Vanderbilt and they get swept by Arkansas, and they didn't show up at the second half of a home game against LSU. So, what's the old Forrest Gump and the box of chocolates line? You just never know what you're going to get.
Olin Buchanan hanging out with us, talking some Texas A&M hoops here on the game after what happened last night, the 2-point loss at home against South Carolina. Texas A&M, they showed it with Jimbo. They'll pay money to get rid of you, man. They don't care. Does Buzz Williams?
I think I was going to say, I guess you're going to ask me if Buzz is in trouble.
Yeah.
I think Jimbo Fisher has given a lot of coaches at Texas A&M job security. I would highly doubt that they will fire Buzz this year. Even though, you could definitely make a case that they should. This is his 5th year. They've been to the tournament once. Probably not going this year, haven't won a tournament game. You're certainly not paying him for that. Now, the Texas A&M way, they gave him an extension last year for doing what you paid him to do, which was getting to the tournament. Didn't win a game, but they gave him an extension anyway. Right now, they don't have an athletic director.
Right.
Ross Bjork left about a month ago to Ohio State, where he fired the basketball coach. R.C. Slocum's just kind of keeping the chair warm until they decide on an athletic director. So maybe, I don't think they'll fire Buzz. I think he'll be on the hot seat next year. That said, A&M has a lot of millionaire and billionaire boosters, and if one decides to say, "Hey, I'll pay you, off this contract," but the matter is, move the needle at A&M the way football does. So I don't know if you'll have a guy or a group of guys willing to take that hit for basketball.
Olin Buchanan hanging out with us. Texags Radio, Sports Radio, The Zone. Olin, we appreciate your time, my man. And now that you're in our Rolodex, we'll bug you again.
No problem. No bother at all. I enjoy South Carolina, so I'm very happy to talk with the good folks in that beautiful state.
All right. Thank you, my friend. Olin Buchanan hanging out with us. Texags Radio, Sports Radio, The Zone. All right, do not forget, you can watch this little shindig we do. Hey, how you doing? On Game TV. It's powered by Integrated Media, sponsored by Shepherd's Glass. So you can watch the Game TV. Just very simple. You go to YouTube, you search, you find us, you click on it, and you can just sit back and chill out and watch us talk sports. Also, our Game app, 107.5 The Game. You go to iTunes, you go to Google Play, you find it, 107.5 The Game app. You click it, you can listen to us anywhere. All right, we'll get back in here. Oh, before we get back in here, let's give away these tickets, Ed Bird. We haven't given away the tickets yet. You want to go see Florida and South Carolina Saturday, 11:30 pregame, noon tip at CLA. Big game in the SEC for seeding. Caller number 5 right now, 803-404-6100. Wherever you're at, could be Columbia, Florence, Myrtle Beach, wherever you're at. You want to go? Give us a ring right now, 803-404-6100. Your chance to go see South Carolina, Florida at CLA on Saturday. Now we'll come back. It's the greatest day in the history of the world. We'll get to that next on the Halftime Show here on The Game. Oh, the greatest day in the history of the world, which is today, February 29th. Let's get to it. All right, starting off this day. Think about the money spent today on professional sports franchises. Billions, right? This day in 1956, and I get it. It's like it's been almost, 70 years. But in 1956, on this day, the Cleveland Indians franchise sells for nearly $4 million. Utility infielders make $4 million now. Former player and the team's general manager, a dude named Hank Greenberg, who was a big-time player back in the early to mid-1900s. Greenberg is part of the new ownership group. $4 million bought you a baseball team in 1956. 1972, another baseball note. Future Baseball Hall of Famer right fielder Hank Aaron becomes the first player to earn an annual salary of $200,000. Aaron signs a 3-year deal with the Atlanta Braves after having a phenomenal season. 327 batting average, 47 homers, 118 ribs. $200,000. First player to make $200,000 in 1972. Now, again, when free agency kicked, salaries obviously escalated a ton. Well, that was pre-free agency, Hank Aaron. First player to pop over $200,000 a year. And one last one. 1980, on this day, future Hockey Hall of Famer right-winger Gordie Howe scores his 800 career goal. First NHL player to get 800 career goals. I think Wayne Gretzky scored 800 goals in a season. But Gordie Howe, the first to 800. And that is your greatest day in the history of the world here on the game. All right, obviously, if you haven't heard, or we'll reset it, but South Carolina has found their wide receiver coach, Mike Fury, coming in to be the new wide receiver coach. Played in the NFL, played for multiple teams in the league, was the head coach recently of Limestone College. He's been there since 2022. He will now become the wide receiver coach of South Carolina. Again, Fury played many different places in the NFL. Started in Indy, didn't stick there as an undrafted rookie free agent. Popped around the XFL and the Arena League, then landed with the Rams, then played with the Lions where he had his best seasons, the Browns, and then at that time they were called the Washington Redskins. Coaching tree, if you haven't heard, he was a head coach at Kentucky Christian back in 2011 and 12, then the wide receiver coach at Marshall for a couple years. First stint as a Limestone head coach starting in 2016, then rolled 4 years as the wide receiver coach for the Bears under Matt Nagy. Went back to Limestone as a head coach in 2022, and now will be coming to South Carolina. Guy was a grinder, no doubt. He started at Ohio State. He's an Ohio kid. Went to Ohio State, hung there for 2 years, couldn't get any run. Transferred to Northern Iowa, had some really nice numbers at Northern Iowa as a wide receiver, and then he began that journey in the NFL and the Arena League and the XFL and all that stuff. Mike Fury will be introduced tomorrow at 10:30 by Shane Beamer. Of course, Fury stepping in because James Coley, after 6 weeks, went to Georgia. This should be it, we're guessing. This should be it when it comes to the coaching staff. I mean, you never say never about anything, especially today in college football, but this should be it as Mike Fury comes in to take over. A guy had Group of 5 experience at Marshall as a wide receiver coach, but collegiately has never coached in a Power 5 situation. Obviously not as a head coach, but not even as a position coach. In the NFL, like you said, he spent time with the Bears under Matt Nagy. So how's Mike Fury going to, adjust to the SEC? We'll see. Some guys come in with no Power 5 experience, no SEC experience, and they flourish. Some guys, it's like, oh, my God, this is crazy. Because, again, it just means more here. So Mike Fury will come in as the new wide receiver coach at South Carolina. All right, Gamecocks basketball tonight for the women. They'll be taking on Arkansas in Fayetteville. 8:30 is the pregame. 9 o'clock is the tip with Brad. As the women have already clinched the top seed in the SEC tournament. Should win at Arkansas. Razorbacks fling a lot of threes. They make a little bit under 31% of them. So they don't make them at a high rate, but they do shoot a bunch. And if they start making them, yeah, it could be an uncomfortable night to a point, but you feel like South Carolina should find a way to post a W at Arkansas, getting ready for the SEC tournament, where they'll be the 1 seed. The men, Carolina calls tonight with Lamont Paris. Obviously, Lamont will talk a ton about last night's victory over Texas A&M, and look forward to the weekend. Huge game against Florida at home. Then you got a huge game against Tennessee at home. And it might not be huge, but it's still a quad 1 game against Mississippi State and Starkville to end the season. Then it's off to the SEC tournament. And you couldn't bounce back better after those 2 straight losses than go on the road and pull a couple of wins. No, Ole Miss isn't ranked. No, A&M isn't ranked. But again, they're quad 1 wins against, Ole Miss. It was 14-1 at home before South Carolina took them out last weekend. Texas A&M, a huge disappointment, maybe the most disappointing team in the SEC, but still a team with talent that can be dangerous if, God forbid, they can make a shot. So that was just two good W's. And then South Carolina will move forward again this weekend against Florida, 11:30 pregame, noon tip on the game in Columbia and in Myrtle Beach. And again, Lamont Paris tonight, Carolina calls at 6. And I want to remind you, post-game show coming up with Elijah and Jay. Battle of the Battle of Bull Street Gamecock baseball trivia. Very simple. Twice during the show in the 4 and 5 o'clock hour, you'll give a call, line yourself up. Jay's going to throw out a trivia question. First person to get it right gets 2 tickets to go see Carolina Clemson at Segra on Saturday. I think 3:45 pregame, 4 o'clock first pitch. So all that's coming up. We'll get back in here. Firehouse Sub text of the hour at 803-404-6100. We'll probably yip with Jay Phillips a little bit. If not, we got some stuff to get to we haven't talked about yet on the show. It's all coming up. Halftime show, our final segment before handing off to Jay and Elijah right here on the game. Halftime show. Terry Ford, Ed Bird, Jay Phillips just kind of showing up and hanging around. What's up, bub?
I don't know.
Good.
I just figured
Glad to hear it.
I'd come on in.
That was good.
What's up with you?
I got nothing. Let's go.
All right.
Let's get out of here. Play a little music. Let's
Okay.
kick.
Do it.
All right.
Ed, cue the band.
Firehouse Subtext the hour. Can you please explain to me how Clemson in bracketology is a 5 seed, not even ranked in the top 25, but South Carolina's a 6 seed?
I can. Strength of schedule is one.
Mm-hmm.
2, don't forget here's the thing. I know the net ranking and like the ESPN BPI and a few things, and this is where it gets kind of silly, but they explain these things. It does take into account some level of preseason expectation as well. That's why A&M last night was a 72% had a 72% chance to win. It has a lot to do with the fact, and I know that's the BPI instead of the net, but that Carolina was picked last, and A&M was picked second.
Yeah.
And so, I again, why? I don't know. I don't care. Preseason things are what they are, and that's cool. I know. Listen, I know a lot more about why Carolina was picked last, maybe than A&M second. But so they factor those things into their computer projections. Now the net does it a little bit differently, but it's also part of the formula. When Elijah and I had Myron Metcalf on, he was explaining some of that. Like, try to take those things as best you can with the knowledge that some of how these computers spit their info out is based kind of like Bill Connelly's SP Plus in football. It's based on what people thought of you as much as what it is that you're doing. And I know that's not a great way to do it.
I know, because again, I love me some Billy Connolly S&P. I love that. I look at that all through the college football season. And look, but I do disagree with okay, if you want to use the preseason prognostication early in the year, that's one thing. But once you get to this point in the season, don't you think that metric should be kicked to the curb? I think, okay, who you are now is who you are.
Right.
Who you were or you were
and that's why there's a committee. That's why there's a committee.
Right. And I think that's the one flaw. Look, there's flaws in this stuff, and we can all agree to disagree on all this stuff or whatever. I don't like how that continues to stay in your ranking as the season goes on, because you're not that team.
Right.
How many teams have we seen, Jay, who aren't the team you see in the preseason or what you thought they were going to be? A&M's a great example.
Yeah. Well, and, like the Gonzagas and Villanovas of the world get some benefit of the doubt from the same kind of thing, and they're not having the seasons they expect to have. And so it does work both ways. Again, that's why there's a committee. I read a long thread the other day. It wasn't directed about South Carolina. It was just about, I think it was really more about this whole Big 12 story of is the Big 12 finding a way to game the computers. And Joe Lunardi basically said, look, I get why people are saying it. And then he went on to explain in a long Twitter thread about how it's really hard to do that. And it just has more to do with some results and a few other things. And because the net takes into account, like the old RPI didn't take into account if you won by 1 or by 100. The net does. So there's a few things here and there about some blowout games. And I don't want to bore people with too many details, but to the texter's question about Clemson. Look, and you have the net pulled up right now. What's Clemson's quad 1 record?
Clemson's 5-3 in quad 1 games and 4-3 in quad 2 games.
Okay, so 9-6
in the quad 1 and 2. Their strength of schedule, those top 35.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And that's really where Clemson's their quad 1's 5-3 is, there's a lot worse. It's okay, it's solid, but that strength of schedule is carrying them because they're a top 35 strength of schedule team.
That's why I said strength of schedule number 1. Clemson and Carolina's is not good.
No, because remember, and I get why Lamont had the non-conference schedule he had. You're trying to put a team together. You want to build confidence. You want to build continuity and cohesion. Their biggest win in the non-conference, pick one, Grand Canyon or Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
That's not wow.
Right.
Not to be mean. Their conference wins have been great. Some of the conference.
You obviously know your best win is at Tennessee, and that's one of the best wins anybody has in the country this year.
You think about going on the road to Knoxville, a tough place to win to begin with, and to pull that W, and really, you were the better team from tip to buzzer. That was a hell of a win.
Yeah.
And
by the way, be nervous. I'm not a defeatist, but be nervous next week when Tennessee comes.
They're coming in angry.
Did you see them last night?
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
Connect went nuts. Connect just took that game over.
Auburn's good, and Tennessee handled them.
Well, the thing is, Auburn's good on defense, and Connect just destroyed Auburn.
And everywhere.
It was unreal.
I was telling Elijah, that kid's got handle, too.
Oh, yeah, he does. He scores on 3 levels.
I
mean, look, Rick Barnes if we gave Rick Barnes the Falker Truth Serum, Rick would go like this. I never knew he was this good.
There's no way.
Well, he was second team All Big Sky.
Yeah.
He's going to be first team SEC.
Yeah.
This is a kid who obviously worked on his game in the offseason.
Might be a lottery pick.
He's a kid that worked on his game in the offseason and made himself dangerous on all 3 levels. He can dribble it. Yeah. He can dunk it. We saw that a lot. He can hit threes.
That move last night where he drove and Auburn was like, wait, did he just go by us?
Did you see? You know who he basically wasted was Broom. He basically said, dude, I don't care how tall you think you are. I'm going to go right by you. I don't care how good you think on D. Watch this. By the way, you can watch the Sports Center highlight over and over again of me like going right by you like you're a cardboard cutout. Yeah. Connect was phenomenal last night.
That was a good game. But anyway, the Carolina-Tennessee win is good. But Carolina's strength of schedule, not strong.
Right.
And Clemson, again, like you said, 9-6, quad 1, quad 2. That's good.
And look, this is the thing about South Carolina that.
And remember, Clemson won at Bama.
Right. Yes.
That's a good win, too. That's a really good win.
Remember, Bama was very clunky in the non-conference. Remember in the beginning?
All they did was play quad 1 games.
And then they got it going, remember?
Yeah.
All right, so here's the thing you got to remember about South Carolina, and you can get mad about it. You can understand it. They are not darlings of the computer. They're just not. Their efficiency levels are never going to be high and wow. They do, like, for an example, you know what they do really well? They pass the basketball for buckets. Last night, 22 assists on 25 made baskets. They're top 10 in the nation in assists per made bucket. There are things they do well, but if you go through their analytic numbers, I don't care what pick one. They don't wow you analytically. They are better than the sum of their parts in so many ways. And that's a compliment to the players and the coaching staff and the way they play and how they stay true to the way they play. And that's why they're doing what they're doing. Plus, at the end of games, man, the one game they kind of lost it at the end of the Georgia game, missing free throws and just kind of fouling. The LSU game got away.
LSU's the one you want back.
Yeah, absolutely. But like last night, and I talked about the play in the first riff of the show. A&M ties it. Ball goes to Michi. Nobody's frazzled. Nobody's scattered. Michi takes the ball. A&M's not pressuring the ball. He starts coming down court. What's Lamont Paris doing? Go, dude.
Yeah.
We ain't calling a timeout. And look what happened. Michi drives the lane. The big comes up to help. Michi calmly drops a bounce pass. Zach Davis catches it, lays it in. You get the winning shot. Just this basketball team, there's something intangible that doesn't – analytics don't matter. Numbers don't matter. They just play winning basketball.
Listen, I come back around to the point about the eye test and the committee, and Carolina passes that, and that will be their. When I say saving grace, it's larger than saving grace.
Mm-hmm.
That will be. That's where they get an A+. The eye test, they get an A+.
Yep. You come off the court going, this is a well-coached, well-drilled basketball
team. The committee will reward them for that.
Absolutely. Jay will take it over here, give you some tickets for the Battle of Bull Street on Saturday. Post-game show. Ed Bird, fine job, my man. Saving my butt like always. Post-game show is next here on the game.